So, who's watching this video? If I ask the question, who's hearing these words? Do you know who you are? Or more accurately, do you know what you are? Because even in a mental sense, we don't know what we are. We have theories and whatnot, but we don't know what this creature we call a human is. There's a mystery there. And we can marvel at ourselves. We can think it's wonderful what we've created, or think it's horrific what we've created. But what is it? What are we that can observe all of that? Or what are we that is aware of all of that? What are you that's watching this video? What are you that hears the words that I'm speaking right now? How is that even possible? And that question doesn't have an answer or an explanation. It can do, but that's not the immediate reality of the seeing or the hearing, the existing, the knowing, the awareness. Do you ever feel like there's a question that can't be answered? Do you ever feel like there's something unknown, unknowable about this life, this reality? Do you ever think, what's going to happen when I die? Or where was I before I was born? Do you ever think it's weird that we can't remember anything outside of this apparent lifetime when we try and think about it? Is it weird that there's something missing? Some kind of knowledge missing from this? Some question that can't be answered? Some mystery that is beyond us? And the mind can only think in terms of separation, because we know ourselves to be a separate individual. Then we can easily come to the conclusion that what's beyond us, what's beyond life and death, is some form of other separate individual, some form of this, except at a different level, except beyond. We imagine that there's something beyond this that has the answer to these questions that we'll maybe have answered after we die. But is it not weird that there's just something missing? Does it ever feel that, or do you ever feel that there's something just not right about this? You feel like that we should know. Why don't I remember? Why don't I remember before I was born? Why don't I know what's going to happen after I die? Why am I limited to this individual form, this lifetime? Why do I have to die? Why do I have to let go of all of this? Why does all this have to change? Pretty depressing narrative, isn't it? But if you look closely at it, closely enough, If you ask the question and have reality or experience answer it for you, you can see that there is a memory of before this life, but it's right here in this moment. There is the knowledge of what will happen after we die, and it's right here in this moment. If you go far enough into that, then these questions become obsolete, and all of the suffering that comes with this position and these questions fades away and becomes irrelevant. As in, we're not longing for something else, we're not longing for a reality that's not here, that's not this. From the point of view of the separate self, the idea in the head that this is all there is, this is all there can never be, and this is it, is extremely disturbing, because the separate self always longs for something else, something better, which is its survival mechanism. It's trying to avoid the perceived negative experience and move towards a perceived positive experience. That's its nature, and it serves its purpose. It does that because it's trying to have this animal survive, this individual. It's looking out for the individual. It's trying to do what's in the best interests of the person, the ego. But it can't comprehend that itself, the ego, this body, exists within and as the entirety of infinity, entirety of reality. Until the mind is quiet enough, until the thoughts become quiet enough to allow the clarity to show itself, to allow the clarity to come through, to allow the remembering of what this is, what we are, what I am. And then that's what the awakening bliss nirvana is, that recognition, that clear recognition, that clear remembering of what I am. Kind of like a memory that happens right now, a realization, a clear remembering of something that exists outside of time but contains time. It's something that can't be explained at all by the mind, can't be comprehended by that limited individual separate perspective. And it begins very subtly. It begins like it's just a knowing that something isn't quite right with this. There's a question there. There's something there's just something there. That question, what is this? What is life all about? Who am I? Why am I here? That's the awakening. That's the beginning. That subtle emerging of this recognition of those questions, until that becomes unavoidable and we have to let go of the narrative. We've seen too much that the narrative is incomplete, that it can't comprehend, it can't explain what this is. In that sense, it's useless. And then we let it go, and then what comes forth with clarity is the true nature of ourselves, which is infinite, which is not separate, which is completely free from time, distance, and separation. And then there goes the fear of death. There goes the question. It all becomes irrelevant. These questions that were causing us so much suffering and anguish and so on aren't relevant anymore. They've been answered in a sense. And as we answer them, we see that they were needed, but the answer was never going to appear in the way that we thought it was. There was no conclusion, as in every moment is a conclusion, every moment's a mystery. And what we are is a complete mystery to this thing that we call the self, this thing that we call the individual, the ego, this narrative, this person, this story. But what we are also a mystery to ourselves, but in a completely different way, in a way that doesn't need to be explained, in a way that doesn't need conclusions, in a way of complete freedom, of complete release for the need to separate and box things into a manageable framework or a question and answer. What am I that knows this experience? What am I that knows these thoughts? What am I that sees this? What am I that hears these sounds? The sounds are me, the appearance is me. These thoughts are me. This thinker is me. It's all me, but not confined to any singular part of that, divided from anything else. As in there's no division anywhere. I can't even find division, separation, separateness in my experience, ever. It's just not there. But there is an illusion of it appearing within the unseparated. There's an illusion of time appearing within the timeless. But it's seen clearly as an illusion. It's seen clearly as not real. It's seen clearly that real and unreal aren't applicable to what we truly are, because what we truly are is too free, too unlimited to be confined by these conceptual frameworks. And we can see as well that what seems to be thinking these thoughts, what we identified before, the thinker, is another form of thought that appears within, I'm going to say us. I'm going to say us, a term of separation used to describe the one. The one being not even one, because it's too free to be captured with a number. The one has to be counted. This is beyond mathematics completely. We can see that thinker of the thoughts, when we finally don't look from it, we experience it for what it is, let's say. That it has a feeling to it, it has a accumulation of emotional energy, attached to it. It has a distinctive flavour or feeling or energy to it. This me, this thinker of the thoughts, this subject to which all of this experience happens for, this individual mind walking through the world, interacting with the world, the separate self. When we finally see that it is made of thought and accumulated emotion, we notice that the thought has beyond the thought there's a flavour, there's a feeling to it, and that feeling is, I'll speak for myself, for me the feeling was fear, helplessness, dissatisfaction, shame, all congealed into one kind of emotional charge feeling. And I'm not going to say this is how it is, but it seemed that any of the positive, maybe that's not a good word, any of the happy, blissful, fulfilling experiences in life were noticed, let's say, when this feeling of the separate self, this emotional charge of this thinker, this me, thinned to an extent where the true nature of what I am was able to shine through it, was able to be perceived without an agenda, without a framework, with freedom. As in, I was perceiving what I am. And then at a certain point, that identity stops making sense, because identity is something that we've created for the individual. And we see that there isn't identity. And that the identity is another framework through which we're perceiving reality that was originally in place to help the separate self function in life. When we see that separate self, that entity that we took ourselves to be, that we believed we were, we can appreciate it and we can love it as much as possible until it dissolves into nothing. We're not scared of letting it go, because that was always going to happen. Was it not? That was always going to happen. It was always going to turn to dust at the end of the day. That this body, this mind was always going to disintegrate into nothing. But what we are is indestructible, and that is here right now. Is the one thing about us, that longing, because we knew that we were going to die. Something deep in us before realization knows that that's not right. This isn't right, the way I'm perceiving things, because I fear this, I fear I'm going to die and I'm going to become nothing, and then what? What is that question all about? Of course you're going to die. It's fine. Because what you are doesn't die. Could maybe frame it in a way for the mind that might be quite satisfying. Like, you know, we came from this primordial soup and emerged, and it evolved and grew from this life, this mess of life, and grew out of the dirt and appeared as these individuals. We all came from the same place, we all came from the same source of life and became separate. And then we returned to the original source, let's say. But that doesn't address the emotional turmoil that we can feel when we consider that all this is going to be gone one day. But that's a projection into the future. When we do that, we miss ourselves, what we are. We miss this here. We miss reality. We're looking away from this and trying to find something else, something better, something more comfortable, something preferable, something nicer, something safer. And in doing that, we miss life. We resist what is here, this here-ness, this right now, this experience. We miss the experience when we're chasing this answer. And we overlook ourselves, not knowing that the answer is already here. That we are the answer. And all it really takes is it takes no time at all to just recognize yourself, to wake up. It takes no time at all. It's right here. It is what you are. It takes effort to move away from it. It takes effort. Something else comes through, something else moves this recognition into experience, something that doesn't take effort, something that is anyway, something that doesn't need to be generated. That's just, the mind will try and figure it out. The mind will try and use the tools that it knows it has used in the past before to bring something about, but it can't. It can't bring about what already is. It can't. I don't know how to describe it. It just, something moves this into clarity. Something unveils this. Something about yourself recognizes itself, but it recognizes itself not to be separate from anything. Then in a way you see, you were always awake. You were always enlightenment. You were always yourself. What we got lost in was a distraction, a veiling. And after the recognition, after the realization, the veiling continues, but you can see it for what it is. That doesn't mean you won't get involved in it again because of habit, because that strong, that weakened but previously very strong sense of self, that flavour of the thinker, that narrative is alluring, and it will continue for a while. But after time, the veiling becomes thinner and thinner until all you're left with is just what is, just yourself, infinitely. anyway, that'll do for now. Thanks, by the way, to the person who gave me some feedback about the sound in the videos. I didn't realise the sound was that bad. I watched the video back, so that's why I'm parked up now, albeit next to a busy road. But I'm going to try and film in the house next time. Talk to you next time.